HTML has a lot of lesser used but no less important tags that are slowly becoming more important as the semantic web starts rolling in. These include the small, site, meter, aber, and time tags. Because these tags can be a bit hard to figure out, I'll walk you through them so you can see how they're used. We'll start with the small tag. The small tag used to be used just to make things smaller, but now it has a specific purpose. The small tag wraps legalese or fine print content, things like terms and conditions, rules, legal disclaimers, and so on. I like to use it in my footers to wrap things like the copyright statement in the bottom of the page so that it's easier to see that this is a copyright statement. Here's an example of how you would use it. You simply put in the small tag, write in the fine print you want to use there, and then end the small tag. The next tag is site. Now, site used to be used a lot, and then people stopped using it, and now it's back. The site tag is now supposed to wrap the title of work pointing to another source. So, for example, if you put in a blog quote with a quote from a different source, then you would put in a site quote with the name of that source, and then within that, put an anchor tag that points out to the source so people can click on it and go to that source. An example of using the site is this. Because I got this information from the W3C Web Standards website, I'll wrap W3C Web Standards in a site tag so that it's clear where it came from. The meter tag is a new tag that has a lot of potential. It's not really being used much now, but it will be in the future, and you'll see why in a second. The meter tag measures data within a certain range. For instance, 9 out of 10 lynda.com viewers are human, or 80%, or something like that. The point of the meter tag is that it actually carries with it information about the number within the tag itself. If you look at an example, you'll see what I mean. When you add the meter tag, you also add attributes. In this case, when you say 9 out of 10, we add the value 9 and then we set the minimum to 0 and the max to 10. Now we can use CSS and JavaScript to display a scale from 0 to 10 and then point out the 9 value on that scale. You can also use it to show something like 90% out of 100 by marking it up this way. Meter value equals 0.9, which is 90%. And again, you can use CSS to then show a scale from 0 to 100 and mark off the 90% mark. The aber tag is the abbreviation tag. You use it to wrap acronyms and abbreviations. The purpose of this tag is to provide extra information. Because if you use an acronym or an abbreviation, chances are the person reading it won't know what these mean. And here's a good example. If you see the abbreviation COL or col dot, you don't know what that means. It could either be colonial, it could be kernel, it could be college, or it could be something else. But by wrapping this in the aber tag and adding a title, if you then move your mouse and hover over the abbreviation, you'll see a little pop-up that gives you the full explanation of what that word means. Finally, we have the time tag. Now, the time tag is controversial, to say the least. In fact, the week before we recorded this course, the W3C who decide these things, what tags people can and cannot use, decided to pull the time tag out of the HTML5 standard, only to reintroduce it because developers got so angry. The idea with the time tag is that when you put a time on your website, you can tell the browser what time this is, and then the browser can do something with it. The way you mark that up is by saying time, and then date time, and then you can either mark it up by a standard 24-hour clock, so 9:30 p.m. would become 21:30, or you can even attach a specific time on the Gregorian calendar. In this case, I've added a date time that points to Winter Solstice 2011, which is on the 22nd of December at 5:30 a.m. in England. You'll notice it says plus 0000 at the end. That refers to the zero timeline. So if you wanted to refer to a time, for instance, in LA, you would say plus 0800 because it's 8 hours ahead. The time tag is probably the most interesting one, at least for me, because once you add the time tag into your page, you could then develop a phone app or a web app that would pick up the time and either change it depending on where the person who's visiting the site is, or add that time to a calendar, add it to some other element where you can use it actively. And that's the whole point of all these tags. As the web progresses and browsers progress, we can build in new functions that hook into the tags and pull out information of the website in addition to what you've written. Using the correct markup in your copy can add a lot of information to the material that's already there. That's the whole point of hypertext, to add new layers of information that's not available in print.